You know, usually when you look through a window, there is this baseline expectation that you're looking at the outside world.
Right, like you expect to see the trees, the street, maybe a neighbor walking a dog.
Exactly. It is a physical pane of glass separating you from reality,
Yeah.
sure, but you are still fundamentally looking at reality. It's grounded.
Yeah, it's a boundary, but a transparent one.
Mm.
The world on the other side is still just, happening on its own terms.
Right, but
What?
then you look at the screens we stare into all day. Our phones, our laptops, the tablets we bring to bed.
Oh, completely. The window metaphor just entirely breaks down.
It really does. We aren't looking out at the messy, unstructured world anymore. We're looking at this highly curated, endlessly scrolling projection of the world.
And honestly, it is starting to feel incredibly alienating for a lot of people.
Totally alienating. So welcome to the deep dive. Whether you are a university student prepping for a grueling media theory class, or, you're just someone sitting on the subway looking at your terrifying weekly screen time report,
We've all been there.
and you're just trying to figure out why modern life feels so isolating, today's mission is specifically for you.
It really is the defining paradox of our era, right? Why does having the ability to be more connected than any humans in history leave us feeling so entirely disconnected from one another?
It's a huge question.
Hmm.
And to get to the bottom of that, we're looking at a text that operates like basically the ultimate cheat code for understanding modern media influence.
Yeah, we are diving into Guy Debord's The Society of the Spectacle, specifically looking at Ken Nabb's 2002 translation.
Now, at first glance, I know this is a mid-20th century French philosophical text. It's
Mm.
dense, it's intimidating, and it sounds like something you only read to pass a seminar.
It can definitely come across that way.
But our goal today is to unpack this academic legacy and discover why Debord's writing is practically a survival guide for navigating the modern digital age.
And I think it is worth establishing right away, as the translator Ken Nabb really emphasizes, that while this is a famous work of critical theory, it is absolutely not some ivory tower abstract discourse.
Right, it's not just academics arguing in a vacuum.
Exactly. Nabb makes it clear that this text has a direct bearing on issues of life and death. It synthesizes centuries of revolutionary experience. It's designed to be a deeply practical tool.
Like a lens for seeing completely through the illusions that structure our everyday lives.
Precisely. So, where should we start?
Let's jump right in and decode the core concept, because literally everything else rests on it. Debord opens the book with this massive foundational idea.
Thesis 1, right?
Yeah, thesis 1. He says that in modern societies, everything that was directly lived has moved away into a representation.
Life has become an immense accumulation of spectacles.
Now, when I hear the word spectacle, my brain immediately goes to a literal screen. Like, I think of a massive billboard in Times Square, or a viral pop concert, or an aggressive advertisement.
That's super common.
But Debord is getting at something way more insidious than just literal screens, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And that initial instinct, just thinking of screens, is where a lot of people get tripped up. If we reduce the spectacle to just mass media, we miss the true danger of his critique.
Okay, so what is the actual danger?
Well, Debord explicitly states in Thesis 4 that the spectacle is not a collection of images. Rather, it is a social relation between people that is mediated by images.
A social relation mediated by images.
Okay,
Let me try to map that onto my own life.
go for it.
So it is not just the physical smartphone screen I am looking at when I open a social app. The spectacle is the underlying fact that I now judge my own social worth entirely through the metrics on that platform.
Exactly.
And I relate to my actual flesh and blood friends through the likes, the comments, and the highly edited photos on that app. The image is actually doing the relating for me.
You're hitting on the core mechanism there. You're no longer interacting directly with your friend. You're interacting with the representation of your friend. And they are interacting with the representation of you. The image becomes the mandatory intermediary of your entire social existence.
That is deeply unsettling when you actually spell it out.
It is. And if we take that a step further, in Thesis 5 and 6, Debord argues that the spectacle is actually a worldview that has been materialized.
Meaning it's not just like a neat trick played by advertising agencies.
Right. It's not a surface-level deception. It is the omnipresent affirmation of the choices that have already been made by the existing economic system.
Wait, so the economic system actually needs us to live this way for it to function properly?
Without a doubt, the spectacle is both the result and the primary goal of the dominant mode of production. It is the heart of society's unreality.
So it's actively keeping us separated.
Yes, By replacing authentic, directly lived experiences with the passive contemplation of images, the system keeps us fundamentally separated from one another and from our own lives.
Which Debord calls the alpha and omega of the spectacle, right? In Thesis 25.
Exactly. It thrives on keeping us isolated while feeding us the constant, comforting illusion of connection.
Okay, so if the commodity has taken over everything, like he says in Thesis 42, the total occupation of social life and separation is the whole point of the setup, then what happens to the person consuming it all?
It takes a heavy toll.
Because reading Debord, there is this profound tragedy to the modern spectator. In Thesis 30, he writes that the more he contemplates, the less he lives.
Yeah. The spectator feels at home nowhere because the spectacle is everywhere.
It's a devastating psychological mechanism.
It really is. You are constantly absorbing visions of how to live, what to wear, who to love, and how to act. And eventually, your own internal voice, your genuine desires, are completely drowned out by the broadcast.
You think you want a specific lifestyle or a certain product, but it's really just the spectacle telling you what to want, and you've internalized it.
Right. The individual's active, authentic life is hollowed out and replaced by a shiny, pre-packaged imitation.
Okay, here's where I have to push back a little bit, though, especially when we talk about students today.
Sure, let's hear it.
Because when Debord was writing in the late 1960s, people were sitting in their living rooms passively watching 3 channels on a bulky television set. That is passive contemplation.
Very true.
But look at a university campus today. Students aren't just sitting there. They are constantly posting, swiping, filming, and creating content.
Right, the whole creator economy.
Exactly. They're organizing intricate social media trends. I mean, people buy ring lights to broadcast their lives to the world. We are the creators of the media now. Doesn't that level of interactivity mean we've clawed back some personal autonomy?
It's a really compelling argument, and honestly, it is exactly what modern digital platforms want you to believe.
They definitely sell you on the idea of being a creator.
But if we apply Debord's framework to this modern scenario, we uncover a really chilling counterargument. Debord talks about the illusion of encounter in Thesis 217.
The illusion of encounter. That phrase alone is incredibly haunting.
And it describes our current reality perfectly. Debord's framework suggests that this so-called active participation is just a false consciousness.
Wait, really? Even when I'm actively making a video?
Even then, even when you are creating content, typing out a fiery post, or participating in a viral dance trend, your actions are entirely dictated by the architecture of the platform.
Oh, I see. You are operating within the rules, algorithms, and templates built by massive corporations.
Right. So because the platform dictates the format, like forcing me to fit my complex thought into a short video or a specific character limit, I'm not actually expressing myself freely.
You aren't subverting the spectacle. You are doing free labor to reproduce it.
The architecture of social media forces conformity because the algorithm only rewards what fits its structure.
So it remains a one-way relationship where the spectator is still alienated from their own genuinely active life.
Exactly. All that frantic clicking, posting, and filming is just feeding the machinery of the spectacle. Your autonomy is an illusion.
Wow. That makes an uncomfortable amount of sense. I might be enthusiastically pressing the buttons, but the machine still completely owns the game.
It is a brilliant, airtight illusion of choice.
And that raises a fascinating question about how the spectacle maintains itself globally. If it is this good at keeping us distracted, how does it organize the world politically and historically to pull this off?
It has to adapt to different types of societies, right?
It does adapt, and Debord offers a really sharp analysis of how this played out in the geopolitics of his time.
Now, just to be completely clear for our listeners, looking at this strictly through Debord's theoretical framework, we are just exploring his structural critiques here, impartially reporting on the text, not taking any political sides.
Right, of course.
But he basically viewed all major state powers of his era as different operating systems running the exact same underlying software of the spectacle.
He was a true equal opportunity critic. So if he's critiquing everybody, how did he categorize the different mechanics of these illusions?
He identifies 2 primary forms. First, in Thesis 64, there is what he calls the concentrated spectacle.
And what does that look like?
This is the form associated with bureaucratic dictatorships. In the text, he explicitly points to the regimes of Stalin and Mao.
Oh, got it.
In the concentrated spectacle, state power uses the spectacle in a very overt, heavy-handed way. It centers around a cult of personality, a singular, unavoidable totalitarian ideology, and crucially, it is enforced by permanent violence and police terror.
So the spectacle is concentrated because the entire economy and social reality are dictated centrally by the state bureaucracy.
Exactly. It's a very top-down, rigid illusion where everyone is forced, often at gunpoint, to participate in the exact same state-sponsored reality. There is no pretense of variety.
But then he contrasts this with Thesis 65, right? The diffuse spectacle.
Yes, the diffuse spectacle, which is the one associated with American-style modern capitalism and commodity abundance.
So how does the diffuse version work?
Well, it operates on an entirely different mechanism, but Debord argues it is no less dominating. Instead of a single dictator or a menacing central committee, the diffuse spectacle operates through the endless, seemingly free choice of commodities.
Oh, it's the feeling of walking into a massive supermarket and seeing 50 different types of cereal.
Or opening up a streaming service and having millions of different shows to watch.
Exactly that abundance. But Debord argues this is also a dictatorship. It's just a dictatorship of the economy.
The sheer overwhelming abundance of competing goods and competing lifestyle images masks a deeper reality.
Because you are ultimately captive to the exact same overall system of consumerism.
Right. You have the absolute freedom to choose which specific brand you want to consume, but you do not have the freedom to step outside of the consumption model itself.
The diffuse spectacle uses the dizzying illusion of limitless choice to enforce total conformity to the capitalist structure.
And this is where it gets incredibly relevant to how we experience life today, especially regarding our sense of time.
Oh, definitely. If we apply Debord's concepts to how we experience the endless scroll of modern media, like a 24-hour news cycle or a TikTok feed, there is this fascinating argument he makes about the erasure of history.
The creation of a perpetual present.
Yes. In Thesis 192, Debord argues that the spectacle consumes past culture and turns it into congealed, repackaged goods. Historical context is completely stripped away.
It's all just content now.
Right. Think about how revolutionary ideas, profound art, or complex historical movements are hollowed out. They lose their original, often radical meaning, and they get sold back to us as mere aesthetics or fashion trends.
Like when you buy a t-shirt with a punk band logo on it at a fast fashion hall store.
Exactly. The history is gone, only the image remains.
It is the ultimate flattening of time. When everything is reduced to a consumable image, the past and the future cease to matter. You are just floating in this endless, ahistorical stream of right now.
And if you think about the mechanics of that, it is incredibly difficult to form a meaningful critique of your society when you are disconnected from any historical understanding of how that society came to be.
The spectacle essentially weaponizes amnesia.
Okay, so let's take stock here. If history is completely flattened out, and both the concentrated dictatorships and the diffuse capitalist systems ultimately trap the individual in this perpetual present of passive consumption.
It paints a pretty bleak picture.
It really does. So how on earth do we break out? Because if I am a student sitting in a media studies class reading this, I am looking for a way to actually use Debord's highly theoretical text.
You need something actionable.
Right. I need a tool for a classroom discussion, or honestly, just something to use in my daily life to keep from going crazy.
Well, the good news is that Debord doesn't just diagnose the illness. He offers a specific methodology for fighting back.
Oh, thank goodness. What is it?
It is a concept called détournement, outlined in Thesis 208.
Détournement. How does that actually work in practice?
At its most basic level, détournement is the opposite of quotation. It means hijacking or rerouting.
Hijacking.
Yeah, it is the practice of taking the elements, the images, the slogans, or the advertisements of the spectacle and altering them to turn them against the system itself.
Okay, I'm following.
You use the spectacle's own polished language to reveal its hidden contradictions and its underlying absurdity.
Oh, I love this as a practical classroom application.
It's super effective.
If you want a brilliant critical discussion topic for a seminar, practice détournement. Let's say you take a highly polished, incredibly expensive fashion advertisement, the kind with the beautiful models looking effortlessly cool, bathed in perfect lighting.
Classic diffuse spectacle.
But you alter the text on the ad to explicitly state the alienated labor, the horrific sweatshop conditions, and the environmental devastation that was required to make that specific garment.
That is a perfect example, and the psychological mechanism behind why that works is crucial.
Because it breaks the trance.
Exactly. Our brains are so trained to passively accept the visual language of advertising, that glossy lighting, that specific font. So when you use that exact same visual language to tell a horrific, unvarnished truth, it causes massive cognitive dissonance.
It forces the brain to wake up from the passive scroll.
Right. You aren't creating a new image from scratch, which would just be adding another commodity to the endless pile. You are hijacking their image to break the spell.
You're using the spectacle's own visual language to short-circuit the spectacle itself.
It is a profound form of cultural negation. And, Debord is very strict about how this kind of critique needs to operate.
How so?
He warns explicitly in Thesis 203 against settling for minor reforms or polite disagreements with the system. He states that critical theory must communicate itself in its own language, the language of contradiction.
It has to be dialectical.
Yes, it cannot just adopt the polite style of the ruling systems of thought.
So writing a slightly edgy op-ed published in a mainstream corporate newspaper isn't going to cut it.
It won't, because the spectacle will just absorb that op-ed. It will commodify the controversy, package your outrage, and use it to sell more targeted ads.
The system loves polite rebellion because it can monetize it.
Precisely. Furthermore, Debord offers a crucial warning for anyone trying to push for real change. In Thesis 220, he writes that a critique seeking to go beyond the spectacle must know how to wait.
Know how to wait. Man, that feels completely antithetical to our current culture. We live in an era of instant reaction.
You have to have a take on a global event within 5 minutes of it happening.
And that artificial urgency is precisely the point of the spectacle, isn't it?
It demands immediate reactions. It wants you to rush into pseudo-reformist compromises.
It wants you to jump on the latest trending hashtag or engage in collective actions that feel revolutionary, but are really just obeying the rules of the platform.
Debord says true critical theory requires deep, rigorous thinking. It requires stepping back, refusing the artificial urgency of the daily news cycle, and maintaining a perspective that sees the totality of the system.
That is exactly the kind of deep, critical thinking a student should be aiming for when analyzing modern media.
It's about refusing to play the game on the board they provided for you.
You have to flip the board entirely.
Yeah.
Well, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today.
We really have.
We've decoded Debord's core concept of the spectacle, realizing it is not just a literal screen or an app on your phone, but an entire, all-encompassing social relationship of alienated consumption.
We explored the tragedy of passive contemplation, unpacking how the more we consume representations of life, the less we actually live.
We also looked at how our modern, supposedly interactive media habits, all that content creation and swiping, are often just an illusion of choice that reproduce the very systems keeping us isolated.
And we looked at practical tools like Determo that offer a real way for students, and really anyone, to critically engage with their world by turning the slick language of the spectacle against itself.
Ultimately, recognizing the spectacle for what it is remains the essential first step toward reclaiming genuine personal autonomy.
So the next time you find yourself lost in an endless media feed, scrolling mindlessly through carefully curated lives, you can pause and ask yourself a very Debordian question.
Which is,
Am I actively living my life right now? Or am I just passively contemplating someone else's representation of life?
just asking that question changes the way you look at your phone forever. But before we wrap up this deep dive, there is one final lingering thought from Debord's text that we haven't touched on yet.
All right.
And it is something for you to mull over long after you take your headphones off. Early in the text, in Thesis 34, Debord writes something chilling. He says, the spectacle is capital accumulated to the point that it becomes images.
That is a heavy thought.
Now, think about the highly digitized world we live in today. Our very identities, our private memories, our networks of friendships, our locations, they're increasingly stored in the cloud, analyzed by black box algorithms, and monetized as raw data.
Everything about us is quantifiable.
Right. So if Debord is right, and capital accumulates until it becomes images, if we are now the ones being accumulated, quantified, and packaged as digital data for platforms to sell to advertisers.
Are we no longer just the spectator?
Exactly. Have we actually become the ultimate commodities of our own spectacle?
Yeah.
And if that is the case, how do you reclaim a life that has been entirely converted into a currency? Think about that the next time you post. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.